Emotionally unavailable.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Melissa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing well. Coming at you from Seattle, Washington. Loving it here. About to go do my first panel interview. Anyway, today's guest is Michael D. Levitt. He's the founder and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, a media firm dedicated to addressing burnout and improving workplace culture. As a certified NLP and CBT therapist, he hosts the popular Breakfast Leadership Show podcast, ranked a top 20 global podcast on thought leadership by Thinkers 360, and ranked a top 25 California podcast on leadership by FeedSpot. Michael has authored books on burnout prevention. Michael's expertise stems from his background in HR leadership and executive coaching, which now informs the impactful media content produced by his company. We had a great time. My episode on his show just released this week as well, so I will make sure to include that in the show notes. And listen to us talk about burnout and all the things. Really like Michael. I don't know if I said that already. I'm a little bit in a rush. Okay. So anyway, I will make sure to include all of Michael's links in the show notes. And I know that you all will enjoy this episode. So here's me and Michael.
Emotionally unavailable.
Good morning.
Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Super. I was responding to an annoying email. You know, I'm really tired, so you're getting my bitchiest stuff this morning.
This is a safe space, Melissa. So we're good. You're preaching to the choir.
I get it this morning.
What's that?
We're Eminem, Melissa and Michael.
Yep, Eminem. I got some M&Ms, I think, back over in the corner there. Or
you know that?
Oh, those are Reese's Pieces. Sorry, wrong brand.
Oh, fuck, dude. That's funny because Eminem and Reese's Pieces are my fucking favorite. I was looking at your profile again this morning. I was really excited because I was like, oh, good. I know this dude. When is my episode on your show coming out?
I will check it. I know it's soon.
Do automatic downloads and shit on your show.
Yeah, I know it's soon. I don't have the date. I'll email you right afterwards.
Well, it's fine. It's funny because I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, haven't heard from him. And then this morning when I went to see who I was recording with, because I don't, ever know what the fuck I'm doing, I was like, oh, cool. I'll ask him then. Yep. Anyway, so you have a show. Let's see Michael, I'm so tired. If you'll just tell me, not me, but the audience a little bit about your show and kind of what you're doing, and then I'll go from there.
Works for me. Alrighty. I launched the Breakfast Leadership Show a little over 8 years ago, which is still kind of amazing to me because I didn't want to do a podcast. A buddy of mine, did not want to do one. A buddy of mine, Steve, was telling me, so you need to do a podcast. And I'm like, I don't want to do a podcast. And he's like, just do a podcast, do 5-minute little segments talking about burnout, burnout prevention, how to make workplaces better. Just talk into a microphone. You can do it on your phone if you want. Just record it, upload it, send it on its way. You don't have to be anything fancy. Just do it. So I did. I did about 60 episodes. And he's like, yeah, I've been listening to them. They're good. They're really good. So when are you gonna start interviewing people? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I said, how would I interview? And at that point, I'd switched over to using Zoom to record them because I've heard other people were using Zoom on different things. So I was like, I'll just use Zoom. It's a little bit cleaner and does the video and all of that. And he said, well, you just send the person the link to the Zoom. Because I'm like, do I have to have them come over? It's like,
right.
At that point I was recording, the show out of my bedroom. I'm like, I don't want people in my bedroom. Wife won't be down with that.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be good. So he said, no, you just send them the link and then they join in and then you hit record and all that. So I'm like, all right. So started doing that, and then of course 8 years go by, and 800 plus episodes later, and I'm still
Crazy.
doing it. Yeah, it's an absolute blast. I love doing it because I get to talk to some amazing people.
Don't you
That
love that part?
I do, yeah, because in many cases, especially early on, I was very fortunate to get to know a handful of people that I had been following, and authors, for example, and I freaking had their books on my bookshelf. I'm like, look, behind me was a bookshelf,
Yeah.
and I could see, like, Ron Carucci is a great example. I had two of his books. I'm like staring at him. It's like, Ron, I got this book and this book right here, and he's like, that's cool. And it was just one of those things where I'm talking to him like, how would I normally get access to somebody like this who's a Harvard Business Review guy and really famous in the annals of leadership and all that kind of stuff, and I'm just having a conversation with him, and I'm like, this is actually cool. So it just started from there, and once you start doing it, it gains some traction. And the key thing for people that are thinking about launching a podcast is like, okay, this is a long-term endeavor.
Yeah.
Don't and I don't know if the stat's still the same, but I know several years ago, the average number of podcasts would make it about a dozen episodes, and then they
That's
just,
what I'm still hearing. Yeah, is that
yeah,
people quit after 11.
yeah, and they're just like done. And because they didn't map it out, they thought, okay, I could just do this, and they were preparing for a marathon, and they didn't do any training. And well, after that first quarter mile, all of a sudden they're like, okay, feet hurt, lungs hurt. There's some body parts I didn't know I had hurt. Yeah, it's not good. So they punch out, and that's fine. And I get it. It's not for everyone.
Sure.
Even though everyone says everybody should launch podcasts, like, what's it going to be about? Who's it serving? And I think that's one thing that people often neglect to focus on is like,
Right.
what are you doing to serve? Who's your audience? And you may not know who your audience is, but if you were going to go and pick a room, it's like, these are the people that I want to hear this show. Who are they? What kind of roles are they are, and what do they do? And that's your audience. So that's how you tailor
Right.
it, and you talk to that person. People say, well, you have an avatar or a person in mind when you're interviewing, and I used to do that, but now it's more of a conversation. Like, we're sitting at a coffee table somewhere in a coffee
Mhm.
shop, and we're just having a chat about a variety of different things. And
Do you like that better?
I do, yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Well, I do, and the feedback that I get from my audience, and even people that you're on the show that listen, they said, I just love the format because it's like I'm sitting there with the two of you, and we're just all having a conversation. It's like, yeah, that's what it's all about. Uh,
Yes.
the conversation component is something that isn't happening enough in this world, at
I
least,
agree.
especially if you look at social media and the banter on that. I know conversations are still happening with people, but just actual, let's allocate 25 minutes and have a conversation. A lot of people don't. They're used to these little quick sound bites and these 60-second TikTok videos, or somebody putting something out on social media about something and blasting somebody because they're
Well, all the
political.
rage bait now, my God.
Yeah, it's toxic. It's making people angry. It's causing all kinds of mental and physical challenges for people,
Mhm.
because people are getting, unfortunately, they're focusing so much energy on external things to benefit their life. You gotta, if you want to improve your life, you gotta look within. Don't
Yeah.
look for external things. Don't look for this magical political entity to change your world or make it better or make it worse. Uh,
Mm.
I tell people all the time. This is a quote from Michael Hyatt, who used to be the CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishing. He's a leadership guy now and writes books and does all kinds of great things. But when the economy, especially during the Great Recession, he was one. He said, and he said this. He said, this is going to come off as being a bit brass, but he said, I'm not going to participate in this recession. I'm going to make my own economy. I'm going
Mhm.
to do whatever I need to do to make sure that I have what I need in order to live the
Mhm.
life that I want to do. And
Absolutely.
everybody has that within them. Does that mean you may have to work more? Yeah. Does that mean you might have to pick up a second job or a fourth job or whatever? Maybe. You have to figure out what you want, because this depending on this external body, whether it's a government or the greater bank of mom and dad
or even validation.
Yeah, validation, your ego strokes.
Yeah.
You got to self-validate. You got to be happy, you're with your own self. You have to literally go, I'm awesome and I'm going to crush it today. And if you're feeling crappy or you didn't get sleep, like you mentioned before, yeah, okay, guess what? Today's going to be one of those days where, yeah, I'm going to have to go get some stamps because I need to mail it in because I don't have it. And people will get mad about it. Not me, but people get mad at themselves. Like, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I didn't sleep well. Don't be mad about the reality of you didn't get good sleep last night. That's the reality of it. Now, what can you do to help you kind of get through the day? And
exactly.
only you know that, but that there's mechanisms and things you can do that can help maybe take the edge off of it a little bit. Could be
right.
Having a certain type of tea or a certain type of other beverage. I'm not the judge. You do whatever you want. Partake in whatever you want that can help you navigate through the day so you feel better. And
and I think a good point that you're making too is it's really important in any line of work that you're doing to know what you need and how to meet the need on your own. And I think for me, a big ass struggle for my entire life has been expecting others to meet my needs. And I think, like, especially in relationships, like your partnerships, I think this is something that we were taught, like the fucking love languages, for instance. I'm seeing, by the way, that people are saying that was just written by some pastor who doesn't even know people. So anyway, I don't know. Not to go down that road today because, I'm too bitchy for that. But I remember doing the quizzes for that book with my husband. And it was great because why I like things like that is it opens up conversation and it gives us a road to take, because otherwise we're like, well, what do you want to talk about? Whatever, when we're trying to connect in this like grow kind of way. But I remember thinking, okay, so if we know each other's love languages, that helps us to meet each other's needs, because if your love language is this, I need to love you in that way. And if mine is this, you need to love me in that way. Okay, well, guess what happened? Not fucking that. What happened was we continued to be who the hell we are, right? So cut to all these years later, I'm going through a fucking mental health crisis, come out of that, and then my spiritual journey has really been like, how can I meet my own needs, even the emotional ones? Not just, I recognize I'm tired, I need a nap. I recognize I'm feeling a little sluggish, I'm going to go take a walk. I need a shower. I need some water. I need whatever. Those things I came to understand very quickly, but I did not know how to meet these emotional needs that were really born from some really deep wounding, and which perpetuated the need for someone else to come in, because I was like, fill all these holes that were created in me in childhood. And the expectations were off the chart. So I'm constantly needing. Whereas now I'm like, it still happens every day, because apparently the universe really wants me to understand this lesson. So like every day something will happen to where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are you ever going to this? And then I'm like, what was I needing him to do for me? And a lot of times it really is some element of reassurance. And so I'm like, oh, I have to reassure myself. I have to do these things for myself, because he can do everything that he can possibly think of to try. And it's never going to be enough anyway, because I'm the only one who can kind of heal all of those things. So I think, yeah, to your point, I think that expecting anything really from other people just really puts us in a place to get your feelings hurt, because they're not going to show up ever the way you want them to, because your idea of how they should show up is so just diluted and convoluted based off the programming you received in childhood,
Yeah, and their programming, and they're dealing with their own shit, and
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they, like you said, they can't be for you what you want them to be. And I
Mm-hmm.
think and this is where, an ongoing conversation, whether it's a friend, your partner, whomever, an ongoing conversation to say, okay, I if you can, I need you to do this. And it's one of the things that, my wife will share with me quite a bit is, okay, I just need you to do this, whatever it is. And, for me, my goal is to go above and beyond. It's just kind of the programming that I had, and because
Oh yeah.
I saw my parents do it, and, my mom, and I don't know if I shared this before when we chatted last, but I identify as a reformed people pleaser. So
Mm-hmm.
always trying to, help people out. But when you do it to your own detriment, that's not good. So yeah,
Right.
you have to do it from a place of fullness and completeness, or as complete as you can be. Like an example, when you're not feeling well, I'm coming off a flu bug, and there were days where, yeah, I'm really grinding it today, but it's like, still, share responsibilities with my spouse. We have a dog. Dog doesn't care if I have a
If
slight
you don't feel good,
fever,
yep.
if I'm feeling good. He still wants to go out. He still demands to be fed. He still claims he's not being fed. The vet tells him otherwise. He doesn't believe it.
Yep.
So there's that, but it's you still have to do things even if you don't feel like doing it. But I think that's where, the discipline of things come in. You just understand, and you don't,
Right.
and you just like I don't dwell on it. It's like, oh, I gotta take the dog out. See, again, it's
Right. To me, that's
it,
a form of resistance. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
And
and it
and that's
just
been my big thing lately is resistance keeps you stuck. Resistance in any form will
mhm.
keep you stuck. Whereas you can sit here, like I can sit here and bitch all day about emails and scheduling difficulties, or I can be like, yeah, that fucking sucks and move the fuck on. Because why would I sit in that place? But I used to all the time. As a people pleaser, did you do that too, where you just would get stuck in this what the fuck place and not be able to move past it easily?
Oh yeah, yeah, it happened all the time, and it would end up, shifting things around to try to make up because I didn't want to look bad to the other person. So it was a
Because it's all about perception.
Yeah, I was, protecting the ego, afraid
Mhm.
what they'd think about me. I don't. It's taken a long time for me to get to this point, and I'm not perfect by any stretch, but quite frankly, I don't give a shit what people think about me. It's none of
Mhm.
it's none of my
Same.
business. It's none of my
Right.
business. It really
It's
isn't.
really not. And I remember when I would hear that and be so desperate for that to be like an actual part of my fabric, but like not knowing how to like hearing it but integrating it was really difficult for me, because that was, oh god, you want to talk about my biggest wound, like it all of the wounding that I had really perpetuated that people pleaser shit, which
Mhm.
creates so much fucking bitterness and resentment in every relationship you have, because it's constantly, I'm fucking trying to love you the way that I want to be loved. And so why are you not loving me the way I want to be loved?
Mhm.
And I wish it could have been more of a conscious thought that, I understood that's what I was doing and holding people to unreasonable expectations, all because I made a social contract with them in my brain full of expectations because I'm loving in the way that I want to be loved. And ultimately I'm trying to control the narrative. I want to be seen as a good person
Mhm.
by you. So I'm going to do these things. And I can't tell you how many fucking things that I would know my motivation was just, well, I don't, want them to think I'm a bad person. Michael could not fucking even like the person and would still do that because I was raised by a narcissist. So I was like, I don't know if I told you much of my story, but I was primarily raised by my grandma, with my parents being in and out because they were addicts. And then they both died when I was young. But my grandma was like the constant, and she was a fucking narcissist. So I played that game really well because I'm also a Gemini. So like I got that shit down to where I was like, oh, I can play narcissist. That's fine. I had a lot of narcissistic traits that I had to heal. But then I go into a workplace and I was always singled out by the fucking narcissist woman because my energy just stirs their spirit or something. I challenge them in a way and they just come after me. And I was determined to win every one of those interactions. And I fucking did, but at a big cost to me, like, because I should have never engaged in those stupid ass games to begin with. But here I am, just fawning, people pleasing, whatever, full of like resentment and bitterness. And for what? For what? But what did that do for me? Not jack shit. I don't know if I made my point. I'm sorry.
No, you did. My spouse, her mom, narcissist, my first wife, like to identify her, and I don't talk about this publicly because my kids will listen to the show and all that stuff. But I would identify her as probably narcissist light. The very
lots of traits.
Yeah, a lot of traits, and grew up in a household that was not healthy, and so it carried through in a lot of different aspects. And you, when you're in the middle of it, you don't necessarily see it, but then once you start understanding, okay, what narcissistic traits are, all of a sudden you're like, wait, it's like that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie. I forget what movie it is, where he's like, drinking a beer and pointing at the screen. It's like, hey, I know that.
Yeah.
That kept coming up time and time again. I'm like,
I know that. Yeah, I totally get it.
Now I know. And it's, okay, great. Once you learn, then if you want, you can have the pity party and get mad about it for a bit. That's fine. Just, do whatever you need to do to move on from it. Don't carry it. It's like, people that carry on their grudges and all that stuff for years and years, like, why are you carrying that? Move on with it. It's like, live your life, grow. It's like, learn from it,
right.
Like, otherwise Rafiki's going to hit you in the head with a stick. You don't want that.
Right. But I think the difference between holding a grudge and just moving on is that ability to show yourself love and compassion and do everything from that place. And like I tell my clients all the time, like, okay, so I want you to understand the other person's perspective, not so that you can make excuses, but so that you will always understand it wasn't about you. Nobody makes decisions about you. You are the one who makes decisions about you. But also, then you go back to you and you go, okay, is that compatible? Do we have the same values? Are we in alignment? And if not, from that center of love and compassion for yourself, you can just send them in peace. They can just be gone. Like, you just walk away, versus the way that we traditionally, as a really emotionally unavailable society, will do things. We operate from a place of spite. I mean, once I realized, like, my entire existence had been fueled by spite and not by love for anyone, least of all myself, that was a game changer. Because like, I wasn't just my grandma. Like, I was raised around aunts and an uncle that she raised, and they were really fucked up people in my childhood, and they would come and do really fucked up shit and say things to kids that you're just like, what the hell? And also, my grandma became our kinship foster parent. So I was raised in the system, and you're given a lot of statistics about the type of person that you're likely to become being a foster child. And to me, I just took all that and was like, okay, perfect. I will prove every one of you wrong. Well, that is operating from a place of spite. If all you're doing is existing to prove people wrong, you're trying to spite all of them. And when it shifted and it was like, no, I do everything from a place of love and compassion for myself, make sure I'm really full of that. And that's how I can give so much to others, because that is the only true form of love there is. And you can share that with others or not, but everything else is just chemicals. But to me, this really leads me to the point of, like, what actually creates burnout. And I think for me, and I think if you uncover it, this is true for everyone, is burnout really does start with the people pleasing, because like, you have no energy left when you're giving from this completely barren land and you're like, oh, sure, and then the resentment and tension is even higher because you didn't have a fucking ounce to give and you tried anyway, and then you didn't even do a very good job, obviously. And so everything's just mounting and mounting. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that's what created my burnout, but also just the lack of love for myself. Those two together was just, oh.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Lack of self-confidence. The not being crystal clear as to why you're doing what you're doing. Why is it so important? This is something that I did with my own burnout journey after recovering from it. Was okay. Why was it so important for me to do what I did, work the hours that I did? What was I trying to accomplish? What was I trying to prove? A lot of it was, boosting my ego. I wanted to be a pillar in the community. I wanted to be recognized as this great, awesome human being, and that did all of these things to bring, additional healthcare to an underserviced area and bring in new doctors and run a clinic to help people get healthier and all of that stuff. And, it was just, which is so ironic that I was basically killing myself to try to help people get healthy.
I'm with you.
Yeah, it's it's been 15 plus years, 16 years now, and it's like, what was I thinking? But I knew, because I did the exercise post mortem. Thankfully, I was still alive to do it, because
Yeah.
when the cardiologist tells you should be dead, because you had a heart attack at 40 because of burnout, and he tells you should be dead. I accused him of skipping bedside manner class in medical school. He laughed, I laughed. My first wife and my mom, they didn't find that joke funny at all. They were crying. Doc and I are laughing. We're having a good time. They're like, what?
They're like, you almost died.
Yep, I did, but I didn't. So let's go.
God, yeah. Well, and it's you're either going to almost die from like a physical medical condition, or you're gonna fucking consider killing yourself all day every day like I did. I mean, and I wasn't. This is the thing. This is why I didn't identify what I was experiencing as burnout. Because I had worked full-time in hospice, left that field, went into education, and maintained part-time employment with hospice, which I still do, but I had very good boundaries going into education because of my work in hospice. I had gotten really good at don't answer calls after hours, don't work at home, don't do these things. Okay, well, in education, that is almost impossible to do because it's a system designed for you to have to do most of your work outside of the building because of how the schedules work. And then the funding is bullshit. So they're like, oh, I mean, if you can print your own shit at home, that'd be great. There's all these things that the whole system from top down is just fucked. Well, it's also full of a bunch of codependent people. And I was one of them. So I wasn't going to people please my way through that. And I didn't. But I did need the validation, like external validation. I had no way to give that to myself. So you're not going to get that in education, but especially when you have boundaries. I was very unpopular because I was like, no, I will not do that. That my contract says blah, 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 because it's a union job. So like I would refer to the contract all the fucking time. I'd be like, that my contract says I don't have to do that. And I didn't give a shit if it made me liked, unliked, whatever. Except for, of course, I fucking cared that everybody was like always talking shit from the day I entered education. But I mean, that's just because it's a woman dominated field. And that's the way women are programmed to socialize, is talking shit and complaining. So like, oh, we did it really good. But like, here I am, the end of my 7th year. Well, really, by 5th year, I was fucking done because I started as a teacher, moved over to school counselor, and I was like, this is just not for me, man. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but like, this sucks ass. Yeah. By the end, though, I mean, I was miserable, barely putting in any effort at the job. But I just couldn't figure it out because I'm like, why does this feel like burnout? But I'm not physically doing very much hours wise or whatever, but I'm coming home. I'm out of school at 3. I'm in my bed by 4:30. Like I fucking don't want to get up. And I mean, those years I wasted so much of my life just laying in my bed after work, and the weekends, bleh. But once I started to come out of it, I was like, oh, because you didn't know how to love yourself. Like, that's really what perpetuated all of that, because I couldn't handle the fact that there was, I mean, granted, you just shouldn't stay in a toxic ass environment, and I tried to, but even if it weren't toxic, the number one thing that hurt me so fucking much was nobody was saying you're doing a good job, and I needed that so badly.
Yeah, it's that affirmation from your colleagues and from your leaders it's so easy to give, and it can be genuine too. I mean, don't just say good job. That's just you quit placating me. I don't need that. Tell me why it's a good job. Compliment me on. I love, and organization that I help out on the side. I tell the owner, I say I love how you interact with the clients on this, and here's why. Because every time they come in, you see them and you treat them as you haven't seen them in a long time, like they're a long lost relative, and you're so happy to see them, and it's genuine. I know you. It's genuine. It's not fake. It's not plastic. It's real. So that is something that is so lacking in so many different experiences that I've seen. So I just want to share with you, that I recognize that, and it's one of the great reasons why I enjoy helping out here, because I feed off of that energy. It's kind of a reminder for me to go, okay, how can I, replicate that from my version? Don't just, don't do copy paste. Kindergarten skills are important, kids. Learn all you need to learn in kindergarten, because afterwards, as Melissa will tell you, not going to learn much after that.
Kindergarten and fifth grade. Those are your two primary years.
Yep. Yeah. Fifth grade was good. I remember fifth grade. Fifth grade, I had a lot of fun.
It's fun, but you learn a lot. That's your foundation for math.
Yep. And
I was a fifth grade teacher, so
we need more of them. But we also need them to have the autonomy to be able to educate. And as you know, the whole
right.
tangent on.
Well, and I live in Oklahoma, and we have a shit show happening in education here. So, priorities are weird. But yeah, I think too, one of the things that I did on my worst days at that job, when I was like, okay, how I recognized that the only way I could feel better some days was to give to others in a very genuine way. And I would sit, they had these cute little die cutters for people who are so extra at the school. I've never been extra. I want to be, but I don't have that thing. And so I'd be like, okay, so I'd cut cute little shapes out of the construction paper. And I would do this like once a month. I would fucking write a note to every person in the school. I mean, the janitors, the lunch ladies, everyone, like any staff. And if it was a teacher, I'd hang it on their door. The cafeteria staff, I hung it on their whatever doors. And otherwise it'd go in their box. But I would do that. I would make sure, because I mean, I was having a lot of bad days, so it was easy for me to remember to do it, because I wasn't going to do my real job. So come on. But I remember that feeling really good, because even if it was people that I didn't like, there was always something that you could find in them to say, like, you're doing really well at this, or, even like what you're doing matters. And it does. I recognize there's a lot of broken people in every system, and I'm, attracted to broken people. So like, I've taken on projects my whole life, but I would go and just try really hard to give what I was needing so much. And it did make such a difference. Like, I remember even people who we just weren't really that cool, like they felt the genuine nature of what I was doing, because I wasn't going to like leave people out and only do this. I mean, I really worked hard. I mean, I was trying to change the climate in the building, but that did not work. But I at least knew there were days that there was a lot of light shining, and I think that's what helped me recognize kind of the direction that I wanted to go in, because I knew I was struggling and I knew I had to do something different and I didn't know where to start. Cause you know how easy it is to start feeling stuck in your current situation, you know? Like I was like, oh my God, I can't quit my job. Like, what am I going to do? Like be broke? Okay. Well, I did. And I have experienced lots of brokenness since then. I mean, it is what it is. My practice building is slow, and plus I've pivoted a few times. I mean, shit, you want to talk about starting a podcast with no plan, honey? No plan, no plan. Like I barely knew shit about shit. I'm slowly like revamping like the intro and logos and stuff like that. Cause I just was like, AI, create a logo. Because I didn't want to be perfect about it. Like I knew I battled perfectionism and I was like, perfect is the enemy of good. I just want to start. I want to do this. I have wanted to do it for years, but didn't want to start it without a co-host because I thought I wasn't interesting enough. Like that's an actual narrative. Like people don't want to talk to me, like whatever. What the fuck? I am so interesting. Like why would I tell myself that? But finally one day I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And it has healed so much because like I think a lot of us are walking around feeling, well, you know, that like I'm too much or not enough narrative that you kind of like struggle with throughout life. I think there was a lot of that, but also that the silenced, like feeling like people don't want to hear me because I'm too much. So getting to just like have these really connective conversations that are organic, like that energy exchange is so beautiful for me. Like right now it's energizing me to get through this day, like it always starts out a little slow because I'm tired or whatever, but like then it gives me that energy that I need. But it's also like what makes you have to learn how to protect your energy too, because I do get really elevated in conversations like this, and then that what goes up must come down. So like I always have to watch that too, like not to crash, how to take care of myself. If I've had a lot of these conversations in one day, I will be very tired that night, but like not able to sleep because of all of the energy. But I've learned how to do that too. I just said so many things. I don't even remember where I was going.
Yeah, no, it's just understanding, and it's not a set it and forget it. It's an ongoing exploration of self, and you recognize, okay, and I know this, on my show there will be like, okay, I've got like today, for example, I think there's 4 interviews that I'm doing today. We're 3 on mine, and actually no, 2 on mine, and 2 I'm being interviewed on, and it's like I look at that and I go, my first reaction is like, why did I do so many in one day? For me, because I know 3 tends to be my sweet spot. Any more than that is like, oh boy. And there's been times where I saw 6 or 7, and I'm like, okay, universe, I'm not asking this, but historically speaking, usually there's a couple cancellations that happen. So if that's your will, make it happen.
Yes,
And
please.
please. But but I know it's like, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I show up, filled up for every conversation, and do whatever I need to do, and understand that and go, okay, maybe don't do that again. And and occasionally I'll do that, and occasionally I go, whoops, screwed up. But at the end of the day, it's just every day is a new opportunity to try different things, experiment with life, and like, I'm gonna try this, or that used to work for me, now it doesn't so much, so I'm not gonna do that anymore, and that's fine. And people a lot of times will get offended because you used to do things. Narcissists really love this one.
Oh yes.
When all of a sudden you drop that B word on them, boundary, and they, oh wow, then you get to see the true colors shining through.
The second a motherfucker feels abandoned by your boundary, ooh, hateful.
Yeah. It's like the venom comes flying, and you're like, whoa, I think I hit a nerve.
Yeah.
It's like, well, but then I'm Gen X, so the bear ain't gonna poke itself. So
us Gen Xers, fuck.
We're feral,
that's exactly right. We were born feral, and we had to figure our shit out for ourselves. So that's what we doing out here, is figuring shit out.
Yeah, like when there's a major internet outage with one of the big providers or something, and you go over and you see everybody's camped out at $6 and they're trying to get the Wi-Fi going and all that. And I'm like, you can't operate for half a day without internet access. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I got plenty of things I could do. I go for a walk. Hey, I'm gonna walk over here. Maybe I'll go to a bookstore and actually look at a physical book with paper, and
Right.
or just take grab a lunch and actually eat, and just kind of
Enjoy it.
relax. Yeah, just kind of be in the
Yeah.
moment. Just try it sometime, kids. It's an interesting experience for those of you that have never done that before.
For real. Well, and I think too, that's a great way to talk about intentional living anyway, because
Mhm.
I guess for so fucking long, and I think sometimes this still pops up subconsciously, but I really believe there was a destination for healing, for learning, for growth, all of it. And I still find myself thinking I'm going to reach a point at which, and I'm like, oh, and this has been a really big topic on here lately, is the idea that like the point isn't to heal. You heal for the point, which is
Mhm.
to just enjoy this life for what it is. And so much of what I have done, even over the last year, coming out of a mental health crisis, really was forward thinking, like just like, oh, in the future, and now I'm like, no, in this moment, I will show up in the best way that I can. And I'm
Mhm.
going to allow that to be whatever it is, and not feel like it's got to be perfect, and like to just be honest and say I'm tired, or I'm bitchy, I'm a little agitated. Whereas I think I must have carried shame around those particular things when I'm tired or agitated or both, which is not a good combination, but it made me then blame people, like, and not be forthcoming with just like, I am giving myself some space this morning because I'm tired, but be just aggressive because I want to blame someone else for the fact that I carry shame
Mhm.
for being a little bitchy. And now I think also, I probably accepted these things about myself much sooner than I was willing to say out loud, because people are very triggered when you're really sure of yourself and when you're really accepting of all of your flaws. Because I think somewhere along the line, we're programmed to believe that accountability equates to shame, guilt, pain, whatever. And I can be accountable to myself without hating myself. Like, but I think our programming says otherwise until you figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. The programming can be really, really deep, and I see it time and time again. And you're right. People get thrown off by confidence, and
Mm-hmm.
not the fake
Not
bravado type of
bravado,
it. Yeah,
exactly.
it's like I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable eating by myself at a restaurant. I'm comfortable when someone says no, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, okay. They're like, in a way, expecting, oh, please, please, I'm not going to beg. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just because I'm from Motown and "Ain't Too Proud to Beg" is a Motown song, I'm not typically gonna beg. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I honor your decision and your choice to say that you're not going to do this thing or offer this thing or buy this thing from me. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna chase you. And I may ask you if you could elaborate to help me, serve other people. What were some of the reasons why you decided not to move forward with this? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, not to, condemn them, but a lot of times people are, that aren't as confident as they should be, will look at that as me, calling them out, like,
Like it's a confrontation.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I'm no, I went through, crisis intervention training and was a certified crisis intervention trainer because I worked in a very hostile and vulnerable area.
Yeah.
And so you had to learn all of those those techniques and skills and whatnot. And so for me, I naturally try to avoid conflict. Just it's like because in many cases it doesn't need to happen. In some situations,
Sometimes it
yeah,
does.
it does, yeah. And pick and choose wisely. But yeah, people get thrown off by that, and they're like, "Wait a minute," because their programming says they're going to react, they're going to get upset, and then I'm going to be upset, and we're going to do this, and they're ready to go, 12-round fight, and you're like, okay. And
I was looking for some feedback, but all right.
yeah, here I'm ready. I'm in the ring. I'm looking around. I'm like, where you at? And like, I'm not getting in the ring with you. I don't need to. You don't want to do this? Okay, great. I'll find somebody else that does want to. And nothing against you. No, it's not for everybody. That's fine. I don't get upset. Everybody's path is their path, and I at least I do my best not to try to dictate where that path is for people. I can kind of give them some ideas if they're asking for it, but I won't tell people, well, not to their face necessarily, what they should do. Although in some cases I probably should. But you know what? I've learned to. Some people, especially now, I mean, the fuses on people are so short.
Pretty short.
So it's like, you know what? Which sucks because come on, we're Gen X. Like I said before, the bear ain't gonna poke itself. So sometimes you're like,
every now and then.
Yeah, every now and then you're like,
I'll be like,
yeah,
excuse, let's fight.
Yeah,
because but like we said, sometimes you really do have to confront, and I think that's for me been a little bit of a learning curve too. In fact, that's kind of where my spiritual journey really started, was embracing my fire. I even it was my first solo episode. God, those early days were rough finding guests, but I had just realized, like, all these years I was trying to become some Buddhist who didn't cause harm and blah, blah, blah. And it was really just because I was so fucking ashamed of my reactivity to others. But once I realized, like, I do have this fire, I just need to quit burning myself alive with it and use it, tame it, don't extinguish it. And I was like, man, I fucking like this about myself. I am spicy. Like, I want to be that because I am a fierce advocate. And I was always pretty good at advocating for others. But when I learned that I could advocate for myself too, I mean, shit, it started at work. I finally realized that thing about bullies. Like, when you step back into their space, they get the fuck out because the reason they were targeting you is because you don't defend yourself. So whenever I finally got a voice and was like, you're not talking to me like that, it was finally all of the integration of learning just happened where I was like, no, I like this. I like that I'm fierce. I was working on cultivating softness too, because I recognized, like, stop calling me strong, which just feels like you're watching me swim against a current and start to drown, and be like, you're doing great, sweetie. Throw me a fucking life raft. I need someone to hold me right now. Like, coming to that place was really difficult for me because I needed to be superhuman, right? But I also really like this other side of me who can be a bitch sometimes, but it's usually not for no reason. But if it is, I'm sorry, and I will apologize. But I'm not going to hate myself for any of it anymore. And people really think like you have to justify your existence. Like, if I don't meet your expectation of what somebody who, like, women who feel attractive and speak about that, but maybe they don't look like what your version of attractive is, other women are very fucking triggered by that. How dare you feel attractive when you don't, meet the beauty standards, because they don't feel attractive because they feel like they don't meet the beauty standards. But it's so many different little sneaky ways where this comes up, where they're trying to fit you in a box, trying to make you smaller, trying to make you dim your own light because they're so fucking uncomfortable with themselves.
Exactly. Everybody everybody's projecting,
Everybody,
and
including us, but whatever.
yeah, and it's projecting sometimes just something that they see in themselves, and it's I tell people do the work. Yes, it's hard, but do the work to figure out how to truly be in love with yourself. Make you the best version of you that you want to be, not what the world wants for you, what you want for
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Because when you're in that space, that's when you're creating magic, and that's when you're really crushing it and helping out humanity in ways that only you can do. And don't diminish it. Don't let others say things. Their opinions, they don't matter. They
Exactly.
really don't. If you
No, they
ask,
don't.
if you ask for their opinion, that's one thing. If they give it to you without you asking for it, good, bad, or indifferent, thank them for their opinion and move along. And if it's big praise, just make sure it doesn't make your head grow too big, because that can happen. Because it's a self confidence boost. But if you're the one giving yourself the self confidence boost, then the external stuff, while polite and kind and all of that, you just it carries a different weight than if you're starving for it. So give yourself your own praise. I mean, that's words to live by. To sum all of this up, that's just do whatever you can to make sure that you're the best version of you. And if you do that, life becomes a bit easier. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Makes it a little bit easier.
Well, would you say a good way to summarize kind of what we're talking about in terms of starting, if people are listening and they're just trying to figure their shit out, to even maybe they're just coming out of burnout, something I would say is, what do you like what makes you have fun, what brings you joy, learning that, but also what are your non-negotiables now, like in this new reality, what are going to be your non-negotiables? Do you think those are two good places to start, and would you add anything to that?
Yeah, definitely. Those are very, very important. Is what won't you tolerate anymore? And sometimes it
and that might shift, but you gotta start with something.
Yeah, the version of me in 2010, after I recovered from my cardiac event, to the version of me 15 years later is different. I'm different, and I'm thankful for that. Why? Because I've grown and I've learned things, life experiences. I get as every year passes, and they pass even faster than I want them to, but they do. You start tolerating less and less, and you go, this is what I want in life. I mean, it's funny. It's everybody makes fun of old people. They don't put up. I mean, they're all grumpy all the time. Yeah, they're grumpy all the time because they don't want to deal with that shit. They're like, I don't have time for that. I'm like, dude, I got less time left than what I've lived, so I'm not wasting my time on that. And sometimes I wish we would have learned that much earlier in life, but we don't, because we don't. And
no, because you can't learn it until you're fucking about to be 45 like me and go, fuck, dude. I'm fucking scared at how fast this next 30 years is going to go by, and that might be all I have. Like, what the fuck?
So what you do is you just live every day to the best you can, knowing that there's going to be days that are great. There's going to be days that are going to suck. There's going to be days that are going to be but you just give yourself the best opportunity to have the best day you can every day. And you'll figure that out. And again, that changes, it's
all the time. I'm not even the same person I was like 4 months ago. I mean, if you allow for the natural flow of things and stop resisting every fucking thing that happens, man, it takes you to the most beautiful places. And also, like you saying, there will be bad days. I'm learning how to even redefine those. Like, was it a bad day, or was it a rough start to the day? Was it just an hour that felt really fucking overwhelming that you then had to spend 2 hours recovering from? But then, damn, dude, you made the rest of the day fucking great. Like, there's so many ways that you can just enhance your life by shifting your mindset. But I think starting with, what am I no longer going to do that's fucking me up? And also, what makes my heart light up? What is the most fun I can have? What is something that just makes me feel so excited about life? and do more of that shit. Start there, because you're on the right track if you're doing that shit.
You're here. You're here.
Well, I'm so excited that you're on today. Thank you so much. And thank you for just, rolling with the punches with me, fucking being tired and bitchy. This really helped. It's made my day. It's going to be a much better day now, and I really appreciate you.
Glad I could be assistance. I love these kind of conversations where we're just having a conversation, and it took all kinds of twists and turns, and those are the fun ones. I'm looking forward to listening to this one.
Yeah. Hey, and I have your profile obviously with links and shit, but if there's anything, take a look at your profile, make sure that it's not missing anything that you'd want me to include. Obviously, I'll link to your show and things like that, but I want to make sure if there's anything specific that you want included that I do that, and you'll know how to get the episode and shit. And then because since we booked differently for yours, if you'll just let me know a day, I'm subscribed and shit, so then I can look for it. So because I always promote. So
yep, yeah, I'll get you the links and all that stuff, and I'll look and see when it's going live and get you all the stuff that we got for it.
Okay, perfect. And if you ever think of a way that we could collaborate in the future, I'm so open to it.
Definitely. Okay. Enjoy the rest of the day. Get some rest.
You too. Have a terrific Tuesday.
See you later. Cheers. Be well.
Bye.
Bye.
Emotionally unavailable.
Hey, make sure you've given the show a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to if you haven't already. And check out my website, empoweredwithmelissahepner.org, or my link tree on Instagram at melissa.hepner to check out my latest offers or workshops.
Emotionally unavailable.
INDEPE and cut.